This is a very unique system. It's very different to some of the others out there. And this is what I get asked a lot. Why have I chosen this system?
Right.
And really it's about the science behind what EXOE is. E stands for equilibrium.
Correct. Yeah. So in naming it, we really wanted it to have purpose for people to understand that it is an entire complex. And the E is equilibrium in that it is designed to balance the body's skin. We're not trying to override, we're not trying to provide any kind of, and there's no synthetic signaling in this. What we're literally doing is mimicking the body's wound healing process. There's literally 20 years and $20 million of research into that syringe right there.
This one.
Yeah.
Great.
So, and what we've done is really, the way this works is we learn the language of the cells. And so ideally we first looked at human stem cells, and we put them kind of through a wound healing process. We put them through inflammation, and we saw what they released, and you would put them in a proliferative phase, and you would see what they release, right? And you put them in the remodeling phase, and you see all the factors they release. And it's thousands of factors in this language. You know, it's releasing, you know, the stem cells are releasing microRNAs, they're releasing, you know, peptides, polypeptides, you know, a bunch of different proteins, a bunch of different growth factors, you know, all for the biochemistry of what's going on in each phase.
Yes.
And how we did that is we took the stem cells, we put them in our patented medium, and we could control their environment so we could get that read and really that kind of language printout, really the script of what's happening.
I get that.
And then we utilized that same medium with human and plant stem cells together to see if we could get them to talk to one another. So can plant stem cells interact with human stem cells? Sure enough, they did, and they would produce those factors together. So then we knew we really had something, because the cells can communicate across cross-kingdom for sure. And that's been in the literature for years, but getting to do it is the tricky part, right? So then finally for the product, what we did is we took, you know, a blend of different plant stem cells to get the exact language that the stem cells produce. So we learn the language of the stem cells, and that's really what EXOE is. So you're utilizing it, you know, prior to numbing of the day of a procedure, or even a standalone as a facial. So you can get, you know, plant-based stem cell technology facials done as well. And ideally you want to pre-treat with it, because then you're setting it to actually affect inflammation at a cellular level. And we're not blocking it. You don't want to block inflammation, right? Because everything we're doing is a controlled wound, right? We want the downstream effects, because that produce collagen, elastin, hyaluronic acid in the wound healing process. And you know, if you block it the way, say, a steroid would, that's going to impede healing. It's going to impede wound healing. What this is doing is actually reducing at a cellular level the amount of inflammatory, pro-inflammatory factors the cells will produce. And what that does is that shortens that inflammatory curve. You know, whether it's, you know, if it's 3 days, it's going to chop it down to, you know, to minimize that. If it's 6 days, it's going to really chop it down to a couple of days. So you're going to minimize that huge histamine response. You're going to minimize the swelling that you see, which allows us to get through inflammation and then the proliferative phase to kick off much faster. So you're going to see recovery faster. But then in that proliferative phase, it's carrying signaling in the building blocks to stimulate naturally type 1 and 3 collagen production, and then production of elastin massively, and then production of hyaluronic acid as well. And there's no synthetic hyaluronic acid in the product. We get asked this a lot. And they're like, well, why didn't you put hyaluronic acid in the product? Well, if we stick synthetic peptides or synthetic product in there, we actually start to shut down our natural production. The body won't produce something that you give it if it doesn't need it anymore. That's negative feedback, right? So we've seen that in hormonal control. We see that all throughout the body. So, you know, and studies have shown, you know, if you utilize synthetic hyaluronic acid in your skin, and every cell in your body makes hyaluronic acid, you'll actually decrease your natural production.
In the long term?
In the long term. So what we want to do is give the cells the signaling in the building block to make their own hyaluronic acid, and to make their own collagen and elastin. And that's how EXOE is formulated.
Amazing. So all of these things that we've been probably doing for decades as men and women, by applying moisturizers, by applying topicals on our skin to supplement HA production, we could be actually doing long-term detriment.
In some cases, yes. And the data really does show that, you know, if you're giving it the end product instead of stimulating it to make the end product, you'll actually decrease the production of the end product.